Welcome to the Building Resiliency podcast. I'm your host, Todd Miner, and with me is my wife,
Mia Minor.
Mia Miner. And so we want to welcome you here. Thank you. This is our Resiliency podcast. Let's see. Why are we coming together? We realize the need to foster resiliency in our community, emphasizing family that support our young people and parents who are the true strength of our community. We also want to discuss ways to build resiliency in the face of daily challenges we and our families face. We also want to discuss available resources that may be available to help in the community. A little background on us. My name's Todd Miner, and with me is my wife, Mia Miner. We're the co-founders and we're the co-founders of the Matthew Miner Awareness Foundation. We're also advocates for online child safety and social media reform. We lost our son in 2019. His name was Matthew. He was 12 years old. We lost him to the Blackout Challenge on TikTok and YouTube. We are 501c3. We're committed to bringing awareness about cyberbullying, i.e. knockout challenge, blackout challenge, body shaming, and other online harms. We're inspired to provide help to families coping with grief and loss after losing a loved one unexpectedly. And we've also established a national scholarship fund and scholarship for college-bound students to further their educational goals. We're based in Accokeek, Maryland, and also you can see our website there. Mia, can you read?
The Minor family, for us, is a campaign born from the deepest loss, driven by the love and memory of our boy, Matthew, who always worked hard to protect others.
Now we're gonna do a couple of foundation updates. Pull this up, give me 1 second. Yeah, so we'll start here with update September 9th. Here, Mia represented the foundation, and she was at the Senate hearings where Meta had whistleblowers that discussed the harms that Meta knew about and the things that they hid. Here you can see pictures of Mia here with Senator Gus Velirakis and other survivor parents who spoke. Also, Mia spoke to the media, and before that hearing, they also had a press conference where Senators Blumenthal, Blackburn, Senator Klobuchar, and other parents were there. Maureen, Moloch, and what's that? Is that Brian Montgomery? I think, man.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. So what did you think of the hearing, Mia? And what did you think of what the whistleblowers?
The whistleblowers' name were Jason Cetizan and Casey Savage. Are the whistleblowers that was at the hearing on September 9th to discuss Meta harms of evidence, research altering of sexual abuse, and having pedophile rings that they had put on their VR platforms. The game continually having the games after Ms. Savage discussed the concerns that she had with these games, and they continue to have these games still on their VR gaming platforms. I don't know what the platforms are, but it was disheartening to hear. My heart sunk because this is a lot of youth pastime to include my kids with some of the games that was mentioned and that played the harms that plague these games frightens and sickens me to my heart. It just is devastating. So a lot of these technologies, such as Meta, one that was the vocal uh, point of the hearing was Meta in their evidence altering and manipulation. Um, they
Yeah.
have a lot to answer for, so their testimony it was they need to answer for that, and that was mentioned on the ninth, and you know that is a concern for a lot of parents and educators, you know. So
No, that's really good, Mia. I think also, at least from what I heard, I think the main major points were that uh, finding they found that the software was harmful, that it allowed people, adults, to contact minors, even if they didn't know them, and just also other harms. And once this information was presented to the Meta leadership, that they were told to either bury it or erase it or remove it from the report. So I think
right,
that was kind of the major things, that all this was presented, all the harms to young people, and they were told the individuals that did the analysis and gathered all the information and findings and surveys and things like that, they were told to bury it. But
right.
I'm sure there'll be more to follow on that. But thank you, Mia, as you represented the
Thank you.
foundation well there. So we really appreciate that. Let's see. Um, this was something we actually met, Elise E, through our online harms work group. Miss Megan Garcia, her and other parents, they went on Capitol Hill around just probably the day or a couple days after, like September 20th, and they were at a congressional hearing on laws to regulate AI companion apps to protect the mental health of minors. A couple things that I got out of that was because I didn't attend the hearing in person, but we looked at the video of the recording. But
Right.
things were that the chat bots, um, essentially they mirror. I don't think the young people realize that the chat bots mirror what you put into it, and then also it's not just that. Actually, they go a little bit further because they kind of get naughty. They kind of uh,
Right.
risque, and they'll also advocate or they'll advocate for you to harm yourself, and they also say that parents don't, for young people, that your parents or others in your family don't understand you like a chat bot,
Mhm.
even the chat
Right.
bot, uh, a human. It's a program. So very dangerous. These
Yeah.
parents, their children to the chatbots that told them to harm themselves and kill themselves and or commit suicide. And those young people were in a vulnerable state, and those young people actually committed suicide or the harms.
Suicide. Yeah.
So
Devastating.
so I'm sure we'll find out more about that coming up. And I'm just trying to go through so we're not too lengthy with our updates. And then let's see. I think we also post. Well, I think actually on September 9th or on September 9th as well. Mia and I, along with the Heat Initiative, our
September
other partners,
19th.
and we were at the Apple iPhone 17 release in New York City, down there in Manhattan, and we had a protest, people over profits. We had a big turnout, over 100 some participants. I'll pull up some of the pictures here just so you can kind of see here. This is in front of the Apple store. Like I said, the Apple release that just happened. Tim um, Tim Cook was there. He saw us. He reacted. He was wondering what was going on. This is a picture just a little bit up from the Apple Store. We thought that was kind of nice to have Matthew's picture and get that background. Get this sculpture in the background. That was really
Right.
nice. Here's a sign of that me and Mia worked on. We created our own. sign for there at the protest, but also so did other parents. So it was really nice. This is us right there on scene. We're holding up pictures, of our loved ones. We're chanting to get meta and essentially just get the reaction. ABC News was also there, so there was coverage. Like I said, it was 100 some people. There was a choir. There was also we had a mobile sound system, so like the whole way there was probably close to a mile from the hotel to where the Apple store was, and that whole time we were planting and trying to share our message. There's another picture of us there after we a little bit before we did our protest. Let's see. This is us right on the scene. There you go, Mia. It was a long walk. This is here. This is the team from the Heat Initiative and some of the camera crew that was following us. We were going over our signage and just kind of all the logistics before we embarked on the protest. So really want to thank the Heat Initiative for everything, for all the logistics and everything. Just really wonderful. Let's see. This is a picture of the choir. I don't think we had a picture of them actually on the scene, but they kind of sang and got us ready. Beautiful choir, and
they were here of us.
that whole day. Um, those pictures. Okay, I think that's all we have right there. So let me stop sharing and bring us back to. So, but Mia, while I get ready to pull up the presentation, just wanted to get your feelings on uh, the protest at the Apple Store. What were your thoughts on that?
It was a moving protest, rally that captured a lot of the concerns and feelings of the dangers that are plaguing such technology as the iPhone, and having them to create another phone without the proper provisions for the youth, or for our youth to be able to be safe on these platforms is a concern, and that's why we were out there. So
Yeah.
hopefully, we were seen and heard by the higher ups. That was my understanding. Tim Cook did come outside.
Oh yeah, he was there. I saw him. I saw his reaction. And just so everyone knows, on the Apple Store, uh, the rating for the applications aren't consistent the in- with the information that young people can access. So they might say that it's for that the software on the store is available or is rated for a young person, but it's a lot of times it's not, or it's not as accurate, or the software may have a back door, so adults that don't know that young person would have a back door to be able to connect with that young person. So it could be pedophiles or somebody with nefarious thoughts and things where they could access those young people. So those are kind of
Mhm.
the cruxes of why we were out there protesting, because we want
Protesting.
that to be
Absolutely.
accurate, so that way young people, if it's not for that young person, or that they're able to be exposed to uh, malicious information, something that's harmful, and we don't want them
To
to
be
be.
exposed to it.
So, so I'm going to pull up this slide deck back, Mia, and thank you for sharing your thoughts on that, Mia. And one other thing I will share is that it got emotional. It got really emotional. My parents were crying, very emotional. But one thing I was proud of all us and all the participants, partners, everyone, because we were able to boost each other up when we were feeling down. And
Yeah.
with my and Mia probably could speak to that, but with my military training and experience, I was able to kind of boost this up, help anyway with some cadence and with our chants and stuff, and just make sure we didn't stay low. We needed to stay loud, so everyone got our understood what we were there for, and the whole time people were recording and sharing our information and sharing what we were doing. So I think we accomplished what we were looking for. Essentially, we were working with the heat initiative, so we were able to turn up the heat, so to speak. So thank you everybody that participated. We'll go to our next slide. What is resiliency? Resiliency is the capacity to withstand or recover quickly from difficulties, toughness, the ability of a substance or object to spring back into shape. While in the ring of life, or while in the ring we call life, you may get knocked down, but you are able to get back up. So now we want to take this opportunity to introduce our guest speaker, Judy French, coordinator, NBPC, Los Angeles. Judy French leads the Los Angeles office of PACER's National Bullying Prevention Center, NBPC, delivering NBPC resources to schools, healthcare institutions, and community organizations through in-person and virtual presentations, workshops, and materials distributed in Southern California and nationally. She provides support to parents, students, educators, administrators, and community members who are impacted by bullying and works to create healthier communities. Judy is a sought-after speaker whose presentations and workshops have reached thousands nationwide, covering topics such as bullying prevention, conflict resolution, leadership, and self-advocacy. For more information on NBPC presentations and workshops, email Judy at judy.french@pacer.org. And with that, I'm going to bring Judy in, and we want to welcome you. Hi, Judy.
Hi, Ms. French. How are you?
How are you? Hold on, I think you're muted.
I got it. I found it. I fixed it. And here I am. Hi, I'm well. Thank you. It's good to be with you both. And it was really, really moving to see your pictures from the protest. And, it's such good work that you're doing. And so I really appreciate the people out there in the world like you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we really appreciate you being here because I think that when we were talking, because we had talked earlier and just to kind of discuss the podcast and everything. But I think one thing that was really important was how you were saying being able to help the community is kind of get the information out there that there's resources to help them. I think that was one of the main things that I truly liked about what you were saying and what your organization, you're there to help. And I think we wanted to kind of find out more about your organization and then hopefully be able to amplify your organization's message. So could you tell us a little bit about your organization and then
Absolutely. So PACER Center, which is the parent nonprofit for PACER's National Bullying Prevention Center. PACER was formed in the late 70s to help families with children with disabilities navigate the public school system. There are a lot of new laws coming into effect, and they wanted to make sure that parents knew how to, get what the government was promising them. And so the PACER is still around, but because of the work that we were doing with children with disabilities, we were doing bullying prevention work all along. Because and intervention as well, but because if you know anything about bullying statistics, kids with disabilities are bullied at a much higher rate than their peers without. But in 2006, we decided at PACER that we would do a project devoted to bullying prevention for all kids, with disabilities, without, to make sure that the information, good research-based information, was getting out to the public on how to prevent this negative social behavior so that kids could grow up without that in their lives. And so to do that, we decided that we would make websites that would have this really great information with good, positive, hopeful messaging on it for what you can do for both bullying prevention and intervention. And so we have 3 websites. Most of that, what we have there, is free and downloadable. Pacer.org/bullying is for adults, educators, parents, of course, anyone who's intersecting with the life of a child. You will find information up there, and most everything we have is resides up there. But we have 2 more websites, one for middle and high school students. This is primarily focused on what that age kid might want to ask and need in terms of information. And then we have a 3rd site for elementary school students, I'd say kindergarten through 5th. And those sites are developmentally appropriate, age appropriate in terms of the content and vocabulary. And we have designed them to be engaging and to really bring people into conversation about not just what do I do if I'm being bullied or if I'm with a group who's bullying, but how could I maybe think way ahead? And how can I look around at my community and say, what do we need to do better or different so that we don't have a community where bullying flourishes and blows up and becomes the culture? So that's a little bit about what we do. We have about 1.5 million visits to our sites a year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we're grateful for that. And we really want, and that's why I'm grateful also to be here with you today, because anything we can do to get the message out, that, for every kid to understand they're not alone, whatever they're going through or whatever they're encountering online or face-to-face in the real world, that is stuff that they can get through with the support of people who love them. And so that's our messaging. We believe in the power of kindness, acceptance, and inclusion. That is everything. And in fact, just so that the research shows that there is really great promise with promoting and modeling those behaviors for kids, that those are actually, when they're present in a community, they can make the community stronger, where you have fewer incidences of things like bullying. So just as we were taught as kids, kindness, acceptance, and inclusion, that makes a huge difference in a community. And that's the kind of messaging we really want to get out there, so that people don't think that punishment and certain things are the only thing you can do. They don't work anyway. So
yeah. And did you maybe I missed it. Did you say when you guys got started? I think maybe you did.
Well, PACER itself was formed in the late 70s, but the National Bullying Prevention Center was formed in 2006, and with the express mission of, ending childhood bullying. So we really believe that we can, with everyone's help and assistance, we can create a world without bullying, and we want that hopefulness to be out there. Yeah,
well, that's really good. And then I just was pulling the questions up because it's kind of helps me at times. But
sure.
What would you say was your biggest roadblocks to getting started with your work, either from the organization standpoint or you personally?
So for the organization, I think actually there was quite consensus within the organization that this was a path that needed to be taken, because we were receiving so many reports from the public and pleas for help, horrible stories, of kids being victimized. And we just knew that was something we had to do. In terms of, for me, bullying is a complex subject. It takes a lot to get a handle on everything that's going on, even in just one bullying situation. The behavior is so complex and complicated, what's going on there. It takes a long time to understand all of what's happening, and to understand it in a general way. You got to do a lot of reading and research and education for yourself. But then, even in an individual situation, you have to really know what you're dealing with, who you're dealing with, the social pool that the kids are swimming in. You have to know the social skills of all the kids involved. I mean, I was an educator for a long time. I still do some teaching, but even so, the very best bullying prevention or intervention advice is situation specific. So there are lots of little roadblocks when you're trying to help people, because what might be great information or great advice for one person would not work for another situation. So those are just some little obstacles. I wouldn't call them a complete roadblock. The way I was raised, there's you just keep going. It's over, under, or through. That was like that Sesame Street thing.
Yeah, it's just a speed bump. I mean, it's just it might slow you down a second, but
you learn a lot by those roadblocks, those obstacles. For instance, prevention is not really a fun subject for most people. They don't want to think, right? You guys have run into that. Yeah, we can get ahead of bad things happening. We really can. And if the only time that we're interested in these bad things is when they happen, then we're only putting out fires all the time. So that's why I think prevention is such a fascinating thing, but it's hard for people to wrap their head around, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mia, did you want to do the next question?
Okay. Where did you find the strength to continue with your work?
I am lucky to be supported by a wonderful family. So that's where I derive a lot of my strength from. But mostly because I believe in the mission. I believe there's a chance for us to actually get much better with how we deal with bullying. I don't know how you all were raised, but when I was a kid, the advice they would give to kids about bullying was not useful. In fact, it usually made things worse. So I know, right? So when I see that, because I talk to a lot of folks in schools, I see a lot of school policy, state, policy and law, and I look at a lot of these things, and I see that there are improvements. They don't happen super quickly, but I'm seeing that the awareness about what bullying really is changing. And you know that by looking at, for instance, simply the definitions in your school district, parent-student handbook, in the education code for your district, which comes from the state, you can see the definition slowly changing. Still, sometimes I'll encounter things that are like 20 years, old, but I know that things are changing, and I'm kind of indestructible, indefatigable for believing that we can get better. I believe it to the core of my soul. So that's where some of that strength comes from.
No, that is really good, and I think at least, and I'll let Mia speak on this too, but I think one of the big things, kind of having I grew up on a farm, and I know Mia had farm influence, and a lot of times it was just you, and sometimes the community will come together, and a lot of times we come together. Now I think about it, and share things, like we might have a piece of meat, and somebody else might have vegetables, and somebody else might have something else, or bread and things like that, and we'll bring it all together and have cook it all together, and everybody has some bread and some stew, or if somebody needs help out in their field, or something like that. I mean I did so much, it's kind of hard to really kind of break it down, but essentially it was a community coming together for a certain for certain
For
cause.
one
And
cause.
I think one thing we're realizing is that this is it. It's there's a couple of different ways to help keep the youth and young people safe, but that it takes a village. That saying is still a true statement.
Mhm.
We have
I agree on that.
people
Yeah.
that we haven't met before, or maybe we've heard of them because of their national work and things like that. Like your organization, we heard of your organization, but we didn't before earlier really know you and get to talk with you. But to be able to hear what drives you and keeps you going are the similar things that keeps us and other parents and advocates and stuff going too. It's that spirit that can't be defeated, that faith that I mean, I can only equate it to probably like if you ever seen that movie Captain America he,
Yeah.
before they made him Captain America, he just
Yeah.
never quit from the fight. He kept getting beat up, knocked around, all this other stuff, but he kept getting up. And they were like, "Man, you don't know when to quit." And then he asked the guy who pretty much beat him up, said, "Hey, are you tired yet? I mean, is that all you got?" And the guy just kind of looked at him like,
Like,
"Whoa, wait
oh
a
my
minute! I gave you the best I got. You're getting up
God.
and saying that."
Yeah.
He was done. So I.
But, you said something about, I mean, I'm sorry to interrupt, but just I didn't want to forget because you talked about community coming together. And our big signature event every year is Unity Day, which happens October 22nd. And because we really believe in putting thought towards how communities come together. I know that at this time in history, it doesn't look like we're very good at it, but I'm not sure that that's wholly true. I think that there are people like you and me out there, and by you, I mean both of you, out there, that we are like-minded in the fact that there's great power when we come together. And so Unity Day celebrates that. And I was thinking about what happens in communities like what you were speaking of when you're growing up out in the country or on a farm or whatever, in a small community. I was talking just this morning to a journalist about connectedness. And there's a bit of research out now about connectedness as bullying prevention. There's more than a bit, and this is something to think about. What is the difference between a community that is connected? And by that, I mean where we at least know of each other. Howdy, how are you? You're my neighbor. And by the way, in my family growing up, if you were my neighbor, you were just like 1 degree away from family. I'd do anything for you. Like that's just how it is. I still think of it that way, even though I know the world has changed a bit. But I still think of it that way because if your house is burning, I'm running over there, and I'm going to, right, as if. But if you need something like that,
maybe the water hose or something you have can help.
That's right. That's right. But so I think about that connectedness, and that's another source of strength. I know we're better when we connect with one another. I know I'm better when I say, hey, neighbor, like we have a bond there, you live around the corner, but whatever. I like your dog. Somehow something magical happens, like we know. I mean, I live in an area with fire, lots of fire. And I look around all the time, like who are the folks in my community that might need transport, that might need something. And just knowing that no matter how they regard me, we are connected. We'll be putting you in my car when the evacuation order comes. So that's it.
Yeah, that is so good. And just, I think at least in Mia, you can give your thoughts on it, but I think for me, I'm appreciative that there are individuals like yourself that are willing to do the work, willing to speak out and advocate and put that out, because I think individuals listen because sometimes if you don't have, maybe you don't have either the time or the resources or whatever to go there in person to either that place where you're protesting or advocating or talking with the media and those kind of things. But it's good to know that there is good in the world. I think that's inspiring in itself. There are people that have that good heart, that have that compassion, that putting others ahead of themselves. And I think whether we like to see ourselves or not, we are. Uh, what do they say? You're kind of a not maybe not a probably like a spokesperson. You're somebody out there that people look at, and then I think also I think it's quite interesting when they see that your life actually closely resembles what you're advocating. Like if you're for green, going green and green technology and things like that, or more, some people are more vegan diet and all these things, and they see you at the store and you're buying that same stuff, then or even advocating, or you're handing out flyers, even though nobody's there to see you do it, and you're still doing that stuff. I think it catches them. They're like, man, you're walking the walk that you've been talking this whole time. And
And I
I
think
think that's conflicting sometimes, or maybe
it's true, but I think it's what's really important, though. And I mean, you may be well aware of this, but I think it's important for kids to know that when we do make mistakes, because I'm just a human, and if you caught me at rush hour driving on the LA freeways here, you might see slightly different person. And that's just normal, but that they see how we recover from the mistakes we make. And for kids right now, there's some very recent research about most teens feel like they just have this complete deficit of hope. They don't believe that there's any hope for a better future for them. And I think that's an absolute tragedy. We need to really get on that, adults. I'm speaking to you, adults.
Yeah, we do. And we're going to continue to work with you guys, with your organization, and continue to amplify, because we've noticed with the young people that we speak to, when we just let them know we're there to listen, no judgment. Want our advice, we'll provide it, but hey, it's not a big deal. Share, it's not like we're not going to judge you and that kind of thing. You seem to get a lot more out of the young people when they feel like they're not going to be judged. No judgment zone, kind of like when you're working out in the gym, no judgment zone thing. So I think that's good. I think, and that also gives them hope that there's somebody, once they realize there's somebody that they can confide in, and then they'll kind of step back and wait to see if that little bit of information that they shared with you, if it gets out. And once they see that piece didn't get out, then they'll say, oh, wait a minute, this is somebody I can confide in.
That's exactly right. Actually, I met this genius grandpa years ago who worked in a school district way far out in the desert. He had come, he was raising a second family. So he was raising his kids. And he signed up to be like the playground guy, for recess and stuff. And he had exactly that kind of social genius where he'd just stand there, and he knew all the kids. He knew the community, right? He'd just stand there, and, they'd come up and they'd say, hey, Mr. Frank, the fifth graders are taking money from the first graders again. And he'd be like, okay, go play. And he knew how to handle it. He knew that he couldn't break the sort of confidentiality and trust the kids had in him. So he'd handle it behind the scenes, as long as nobody was like bleeding or on fire, If there's an emergency, obviously he'd have to intervene, but he didn't even the kids, because he listened, and then he protected them. He protected their stories. Oh, he was just a genius. The smartest guy I ever met socially. And I met him at a conference, and he had been asked to go by his principal, and here he was, close to 70s, the grandpa walking around with his bag of goodies. And I said to the principal, I'm like, this is a diamond. This is just a diamond. She goes, oh, I know. Because he would solve these issues with the kid with keeping their trust, listening, not saying much, taking care of it behind the scenes. So everybody felt free to come to him. But that's a rare, like a super rare adult.
Yeah.
So I wish we had 1,000 of him,
Yeah.
10 of them for every school.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that's where kind of, hopefully our podcasts and things that you're doing in the community can help, because I think we were saying sometimes people find us a little bit later. The site has its ups and downs, probably, has higher times and lower times and things like that, or traffic, I think they're calling it. But the thing is, the information's there when they need it. And sometimes, like even when we were in New York, I mean, people they were eating their bagel, their lox and cream peas and everything, and they were in the middle of eating, and they're kind of like, what? What is that? And then they were like, hey, they point to us to turn the sign around and show the picture and stuff like that. And they're just conducting their daily whatever. And then some of them, hey, turn this way so I can get a good picture of you guys.
Wow.
And we were, and this was that whole time. And the whole time we were just focused on when we got to the Apple store, we weren't thinking along that whole way. The people picking up the trash, the New York people doing the sanitation of the trash.
Yeah.
And stuff.
Yeah.
Man, we're sorry for your loss. Oh my goodness, condolences to you and all the families, and they were still doing their work, but they still took the moment to.
I gotta tell you, I get a shout out for New Yorkers here. They get a bad rep, but I gotta tell, the years that I lived and worked around New York, I love them. They are, just heartfelt. They can be sometimes sound angry, but their hearts are very good.
Yeah.
And I love that with the sanitation guys. People disregard the depth of the humanity that's all around them all the time, And in fact, if we're back to kids, in a school community, very often the adults that kids feel closest to, or that they feel that they could trust, are people like the janitorial staff, the maintenance staff, like the lunch ladies.
Right.
Just cracks me up because the lunch ladies have more power than anybody. But the person, the bus driver, or somebody who, I think the way it breaks down is somebody who doesn't grade them. Right? Somebody for whom the relationship, maybe after school staff and things like that. So when you think about those guys on the street, I'm so happy that people were like, let me see your sign. And then really had a moment connectedness.
Yeah.
Right?
And it was, I think one thing I realized about this work, and probably same for you, even though we call it work, it doesn't feel like work. It's it's a passion project. It's for the love of doing what's right, helping others, and the compassion. And it's just it's just inside. So I don't really know. Maybe I'm not saying it correctly, but I don't feel like it's work. Like when I go to my day-to-day 9 to 5, overall I like the work, but at times it feels like work. It's deadlines and this thing and that thing. Even if I have deadlines with this, I don't feel it. So I think that's that's a beautiful thing. I was telling Neil, we get to do this. We have the privilege to do this. We have the honor to be able to do this, and it's a trust to be able to communicate safety items for young people and community, and be a spokesperson for your organization and things like that. So,
isn't it better to have a purpose-driven life?
Yes.
Yeah.
It is. Have a purpose
for me.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, there was I watched the thing from they talked about 90 and 100-year-olds. It was probably 30-40 minutes long, and it was advice from them. I think they were all 100 years old.
Wow.
And the main thing that they said, no regrets. Put it all out on the table. If it's that person like you wanted to say hi to or meet or get to know or whatever, go ahead and do it right at that time when you thought of it. If you thought that that person's outfit was nice, like you're just giving a compliment, go ahead and do that. If you want to climb that mountain or do that hike and stuff, do it. Don't wait. Just schedule the time. Go ahead and do it. And then a lot of them just said, just
Yeah.
be appreciative of your opinion, appreciate the other individual's opinion, and also appreciate that you may not agree, but hey, you both have you both are blessed to exist. So it was a lot of kind of exactly what you were saying, and most of it revolved around that. They never said and retire as early as you can, because they said it's not about the money. After a while, you're gonna you had done all the things we just talked about. So bringing it back to this space, that's why whenever we can do something or we're invited to either speak to the media, podcasts, other things, or kind of our regularly scheduled podcast, we do that because later on we want to look back and just know that we, left it all out on the table there, did everything.
Yeah.
So, let's see, Mia. Let's see. Our next question is, what are your plans for the future?
Well, I mean, I can see myself working for more years, and then when I'm not doing this job, I might go back to volunteer in schools. I have a degree also in creative writing, so I have done many groups, creative writing camps and groups like that. I love to work with kids, and I love showing kids that they can express themselves, however that might look. And it kind of goes along with the work that we do for advocacy and teaching kids to speak up for themselves. So I can see myself doing that. So, but I otherwise I'm an outdoors person, and I like to be outdoors with animals and out in nature. So I could go do just about anything. If opportunity comes up, I will jump on it. Just move
Yeah.
the world with
And
it.
it's kind of like, why not? I mean, now I'm more on the side of why not. Before, when I was in the military and younger and stuff, I was always calculating, measuring, essentially trying to control the situation when you really don't have control of the situation. The only thing you can control is kind of your emotions, responses, that kind of thing. So I'm trying to work on that, probably like everybody else. But I realized that, and then also just realizing that your words matter. So trying to, I mean, if it's one person playing with fire or something, something that they shouldn't, of course you need to say no, that's dangerous, and kind of deal with that, because that's something that could harm themselves and others and that kind of thing. But other things, okay, you sure about that? Think about this, that, and this. Or why don't you write down your thoughts, and then we can circle back and talk about it. Just kind of give them the work and that kind of thing, and then just kind of reiterate and things like that. So I don't know. It's a privilege. It's an honor. And did you say whether I can't remember? Did you say are you from California or?
Yeah, I'm from Northern California. I was born in Oakland.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was raised next door in Alameda, but loved that whole place. I love Oakland. Oakland does not get enough respect for who she is. So I'm a big fan up there. Now I live in LA. We came down to bring my dad down here many years ago. He's since passed away. So we came down to be family with his sister and everybody. So but so I'm a native Californian, but the San Francisco Bay Area is what I would consider home. Everything about it is home for me. Yes.
Wow. I've been to Laguna Niguel, kind of that area.
That's very different. I have to tell you, as a Northern Californian, SoCal is very, very different vibe. It's lovely. But
Yeah, we'll have to visit the other part. I mean, if I'm I'm sure it's all beautiful because you
it's
just
all
have
beautiful and it's different. Yeah, it's really different. And again, that San Francisco Bay Area, what kind of climate do you wish? You go 15 minutes in one direction, you can have a whole other climate. You could have fog, you could go over this way, you could have sun, you could go this way, go to the mountains. Like it's all, so the natural beauty is endless. But I love the culture up there. It's, I grew up next to, or fairly close to Berkeley, and people protesting. I grew up,
wow.
grew up in the 60s and 70s when protesting was part of your maturation. You got college and then, you like picked up a side and marched for something.
Yeah.
That's how I grew up. So that's what I think of when I think of, and it's true down here too, but it's again, it's a different kind of energy. It's so dispersed, because it's 10 million people in this county. It's twice as many as there are in Minnesota. So you have to understand it's New York on steroids here. It's so huge. But I grew up anyways with that sort of mentality that you were talking about that you experienced in New York with, carrying signs and protesting for social justice. That just seemed like, I thought that's what everyone did when they got to college. But frankly, when I got to college around 1980, felt a little different there. So I'm always looking for opportunities to speak up and speak out.
Thank you so much for that. And you want to ask the last question, Mia?
Okay. What advice can you offer parents with communicating with their kids about electronic devices?
Yeah, we, when I go out to present, which is often, that has always been, well, in the last 10 years, it's like the monster in every room, cyberbullying and an ethical use of technology, which is not how it's ever been phrased, but that's how I started to think about it. How are we educating our children about using the tool of technology? Like how are we doing it? So the research tells us that parents need to be as involved as possible, interactive as possible. That's our parent nonprofit. Pacer.org/bullying is where I come from. So just add a little slash in bullying and you'll find us as well. But Pacer.org, amazing site for parents of children with disabilities. Where was I? I was back to, electronica is what I used to call it, the country of electronica that kids are dwelling in now. What we see and what the research tells us is that the more interactive parents are with their kids while using technology of any kind, the better the outcomes. But what that means in practice can be a couple different things. What parents tend to want to do is to come at their kids with this idea that if something bad happens, the technology is going to go away. If something bad happens, we'll reduce, and restrict, and whatever. So what we encourage parents to do is to be in conversation with their kids about the technology they're using at all stages as they grow, and start off with a conversation about what they love about technology. There's a lot to love. I mean, you and I both are on Facebook.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's more for like, I swear people my age are swapping pictures of their hobbies and, children and grandchildren, things like that. But we are all now connected into social media and things like that. So having these conversations with kids about what they're enjoying, what they love about it, the games they play, and parents really need to be involved in the games that kids are interested in, because there's usually always a messaging component to these games. And there is very often, it's quite easy to be in relationship with folks out in the world you don't know. The other thing is, for a lot of adults, they don't ever consider themselves techie, or they don't consider themselves to have a high degree of of knowledge about technology, though they use it. And so they're very reluctant to be in conversation about technology. They simply don't think they can. Like, what do I know? My kids know so much more than me. But what we try to explain to parents is that the values that you have in your home about who your kids are supposed to be in real life are the same values that have to come through to who they are online or when using technology. And that's what I mean about having a perspective about the ethical use of technology. Are you the same person online that you are in real life? Are you having conversations that you would not be too happy for me to hear? Are you, what are you interested in, and what are we going to do if mistakes are made? What's the consequence?
How we gonna handle it?
How we're going to handle it. And we do that before the drama starts. However, I do remind parents that if it hasn't happened, they haven't had the conversation about technology, and they feel like the horse is out of the barn, like the kids are running off wild with technology, whatever. That's okay. That's okay. Sit down and have it anyways. Mistakes were made. But it's making us all kind of nervous. We think there's stuff going on with technology, and we've been hearing these stories out in the world, and we don't want that to happen to you.
Right.
So let's sit down and decide together how we're going to handle this. Because, if I'm speaking to a kid, I'm like, you can't do school without technology. Check. You can't, in some senses, even socialize with some of your peers without technology. Check. We've got to make sure those things are still, going to be there for you. However, again, be online. So those are the kinds of things that we want parents to be in dialogue with their kids about. It's not perfect, it's not everything. Again, best bullying or prevention advice or cyberbullying prevention advice is going to be situation specific, because your kids best. You know all the things that are happening better than we would. But generally, being in dialogue can help a whole lot about the technology that they're using. Yeah.
Well, that's really good. And Mia, just wanted to see if you had any further questions or any.
That was some good advice, Ms. French, and really appreciate you meeting with us today.
Of course.
About bullying. I did have one last question, and it was from the Pacer website, and I was interested in reading that there's a difference between bullying and harassment. Can you explain that too?
Yes, because we use the word to harass, the verb to harass or harassment. We use it sometimes interchangeably with bullying or aggressive behaviors, right? Or that are meant to victimize and demean. So, but there is a real legal difference between bullying and sometimes when we're writing papers on bullying and harassment, where we're using the terms together. Sometimes when we're editing, I'm like, do you mean big H harassment or small H harassment? Because we need to get, so casually, the way people use harassment, again, it doesn't mean what the legal definition is. So bullying is, the definition says it's about a power imbalance between, classically, it's childhood bullying. So that's what I'm talking about in that zone. So between peers, classmates, very often, where the person with more power is causing hurt or harm to the target, and the target really can't get it to stop because the person or group doing the bullying has more power, right? With harassment, what meets the legal threshold of harassment is when that bullying, this is big H harassment here, when that bullying is of protected classes. So that could be ethnicity, could be country of origin, gender. There's 7 protected classes. Disability is one of them. I think I'm missing a couple there, but you can look it up on our site. Yeah, so it's specific protected classes that the law, and it's actually federal law, covers discriminatory harassment. We don't have any federal law that covers bullying. We have a lot of state laws and policy. Sometimes states have both policy and law, but there's no federal law for bullying, where there is for discriminatory harassment, which would cover those protected classes. That is the big H legal definition. And of course, there's much more to it for both bullying and harassment, the way it looks in life. But regulars, discrimination based on sex, disability, some of the most sweeping civil rights law has been around disability and access to education and jobs. So there's been, those things cover the big legal harassment. Does that help, or is there anything?
Oh, no, it was very good, very good. Thank you. I appreciate it.
I hope you never have to deal with the law with regard to harassment, but I'm sure that you have a time or two. And, when students end up, when families end up with discriminatory harassment in schools, we very quickly say, we are not lawyers. You're going to need advice that is more oriented to the law. So we have to be careful there, but hopefully that helps.
Yeah. Yeah, we want to thank you, Ms. French, for taking the time to chat with us today and let us know a little bit more about your organization. You talked about, was it a community outreach day, or I can't remember?
Oh, Unity Day. So next month is October. Yeah, next month is October. It's National Bullying Prevention Month, which was an awareness campaign that we started way back when, and started as a week, went to a month, and then our signature, like the culminating sort of event for that month, is Unity Day. When we really encourage everybody to come together, wear orange. Why? Because orange is a fall color. It's vibrant. It's a safety color too. So if you go on our website, we have a whole section of the site devoted to National Bullying Prevention Month, and you'll find information on how to celebrate Unity Day. Anything orange counts. I once was at a middle school after school program, and when very enterprising seventh grader, it's always the seventh graders, had attached a piece of orange construction paper to her shirt with a safety, like not a paper clip. And it said, this was the only thing I could find that was orange. So we don't care how you do it, but we do have some very groovy t-shirts up on pacer.org/bullying that you can get. That this year's, it's actually really cool logo that says kindness, acceptance, and inclusion. Not quite like that. But yeah, if you guys do anything with orange, please post to Unity, #Unity every day. And we'd love to see any pictures if you guys do anything.
Yeah. Is there any registration for that, or
no? This is all personal initiative, but you can go on and see like sort of the wealth of things that people do. Very, very simple. Lots of schools do school, sometimes district wide. So the district where my office is, every school does it, and they do all kinds of, and it's really simple things too. But it's just orange and just it's just like to think about, what would it be like to come together? And I'm thinking that's the path, because if we don't do it, we're not on that path. I don't know what we're doing. So
yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Ms. Judy French. Really appreciate your time. And Mia, did you have any parting words before I give?
Thank you, Ms. French, for your words of advice for bullying for our youth, and how to and where to go for any resources that they can go reach out to, and contact, and be able to contact you. Thank you very much for your time
so much
with us today.
Yeah, and thank you too for the work you're doing.
So,
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Very good.
One second.